On this episode of Dear Dietitian, Peter rants about eating disorders. We talk about different business related topics around structuring your business, the DAA business manual, and the DAA in general. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Dear Dietitian, where you ask questions and we answer them. This week I've got questions that came through via email, so I will answer those. So the first one, is the DAA Small Business Manual a useful purchase? Thoughts on why not? Have you purchased it?
No.
Either have I. So I can't really answer to the content of the business manual, but
I'm sure it's plenty got plenty of value.
Yeah.
And if you've got no skill base, then I think that's probably a good place to start.
Yeah. And especially if you don't know where else to look, I think it's like $40 or something, isn't it? It's not too expensive.
You can also download our, checklist of our website.
Our contractor checklist, yes. But yeah, you could do
for
that.
free.
For free, check out our website. But the small business manual, I think is only like $40 or something like that. I'm assuming it's got some value. I think it talks through a little about marketing, setting up the business, and that. I don't know when it was last updated, or if it has been, but maybe it's a small business manual that we can create.
I was like, maybe that's something that we can edit.
Yeah, we can
create.
Or say that we'll edit it for DAA. Thanks for the question.
Good
Gave
idea.
us a business idea. So yeah, I wouldn't be able to answer that thoroughly, but I guess, like Peter said, if you don't know anything about business and you're thinking about possibly starting your own business, then it wouldn't be a bad place to start. There's a link to it right there. All right, next. This is a business question again. How to navigate the legalities of setting up. So this person has a house and we need to protect. Should we be a sole trader or a trust? And thankfully they say, not asking for legal advice, just sharing your lived experience. So
have a house as in like they own a house?
They own a house, yeah. So they're trying to protect that from the business. So basically, I went to an accountant to answer this question for me, not legal. So I would go to an accountant if you're going to actually answer this question legitimately for you, because obviously you don't know your setting, but in general, if you're sole trader, if you go bankrupt, they can take your house and all of your assets that are related to it. You set yourself up in a trust. I think it stops to the people that own the trust, but then a lot of times people start a trust and then start a company with the trust, which then double protects you. How I've done it is I've just started a company. So basically all the company assets are there. There's different tax obligations based on if you're a sole trader or a company. Sole trader, all your income's related to you as if you're working for someone else as well. So if you're working as an employee plus sole trader, that all goes in together. That's what happens with Peter. Yeah?
What?
You're a sole trader.
Yeah.
And then also works as an employee.
Yeah. Two separate things.
Yeah, but then ultimately your income is calculated based on what your business makes plus whatever, whereas income for myself now that we're a company, my income's only what the company pays me as an employee of the company. So that's kind of one of the main differences in terms of the income, and then the tax thresholds, obviously. So if you're earning, 150K as a sole trader plus employee, then you're going to pay the tax threshold for 150K, whereas in a business it's capped, or a company it's capped up to, if you're earning up to 10 million, it's capped at 27.5 or 28.5, whatever it just changed to each year. And then my personal one's based on the increments as well. That's probably really confusing for people who have no idea about accounting and that kind of stuff, but that's definitely a question that you can go see a small business accountant about. It's definitely what I did, because I was confused as hell as to what to set up as well. I was a sole trader for 4 years, and then I changed to a company when we got massive, and I got a lot more staff. So, anything to add to that?
No. I'm sitting here going, no.
So this is a follow-up on one of the teleconsulting questions. It's like, you didn't seem a fan of teleconsulting. I actually do this for a living at the moment for a company, and I love it. Why don't you like it?
Yeah, that's totally different than doing it yourself.
Yes.
Because one, there's obviously traffic already, so you don't have to generate the traffic, which is part of the challenge. The other is that company is covering all of the insurances and all that sort of stuff.
Legalities.
And dealing with all the things we spoke of.
For it.
And they dealt with the issues which we said, which may be around payments and the plan and sorting that out. So obviously that's the reason why it probably works really well and you love it. Still, it requires a good amount of talent to try and engage somebody on a video conference setting versus having them one-on-one. So.
Yeah, phone's even worse. But a lot of the time, those funding, I don't know what yours is, the person who asked this question, but a lot of funding models, like people might go out to tender, get funding for teleconsulting, but whether that covers just X amount, regardless on who shows up, that's why you can get paid as an employee to do it. Versus if you're a private practice practitioner, you still have to smash out 12 to 15 people in a day, most of the time.
Yeah, and other benefits, obviously, you don't need to really go anywhere, or people just come to you and happy days.
Yep. All right. So this is a bit of a loaded question. Do you think it's worth being involved in DAA beyond the APD program? Pros and cons.
I'm a part of DAA. I have been involved in some things.
Oh yeah, so have I.
Yep.
So volunteering on
jobs and bits.
PCOS?
Yeah, but other things prior to that as well too. I've been on like an organisational board for like some heart seminar thing. I was on that for a couple of years.
I was the mental health Mandy, the mental health and nutrition dietetics information group.
I think let's put it out there, until there's another option for registration, it's better to be with them than against it. So
you need it for Medicare and DVA.
Yeah.
If you're going to work in private practice, you pretty much need it.
So it's a non-negotiable at this stage. And if you want to be a person of influence, at this stage, it's probably important to be compliant, tick the boxes, be a part of it, and even show that you are interested and engaged still within DAA as a whole. I think there's a lot of issues, we've already established that. But there's still the majority. There's a majority of our population, like really.
Just like I think it would be like any other. I guess it's different because everyone compares it to APRA, and APRA is obviously $110 a year instead of 600 or whatever, and we don't know what additional we might get for that. A lot of us aren't privy to that, that information, and whether or not we think it could be done better or what. If you haven't tried to make it better yourself, it's probably.
I think the biggest gripe is the registration fee.
Yeah, it's just that's the biggest one. Like if we were all paying $200, we'd all be reasonably okay with it. It's the fact that it's $600-$700.
Yeah, it's like going to get your hair done and you pay $500 for it. You walk down, you're like, well, I could have gone down this road and got same thing for $100. So
that's you. I think a lot of girls would.
Because I clearly get my hair done regularly.
Do you get $600 done every couple of months?
Oh, I probably would use that every couple of years or so, maybe more than that actually.
And coming from someone who's cut their hair since they were 17, it's just we're not probably the best ones to judge on the hairdresser metaphor.
Afro could use something different, but I was thinking something else which wouldn't be as appropriate. So.
Jesus. Wow. Okay. That was interesting. So basically the conversation continued. They were talking about that needing the APD status in private practice land, but they came from academia and a government kind of background, and they didn't need it in there to be a dietitian to get their role. As you'll see with a lot of those things, it's a lot of the time you just have to be eligible for the DAA or APD program, not actually be a member.
Unless you're actually a dietitian, being a dietitian.
No, even if you're just being a dietitian. They're saying as long as you're eligible.
Yeah. But if I'm seeing clients and stuff like that.
No, if you're in a hospital.
No.
Okay, and then been interesting to see. All right, so I don't know. I'll share it based on what they wrote. Basically, oh god, this is talking about how the new CEO is a man. So they were mentioning that they believed that DAA was previously a boys' club dynamic, even though they're all, women. And I think outside in, a lot of us may think that at different times, but again, we don't really know. So it's just like us making assumptions about it, and maybe that's part of the issue. But I don't think us as dietitians actually do that well. Like, if I'm being honest about pumping up DAA, like a lot of us can get very negative about DAA. I'm sure that they're absolutely trying all they can to make things better. But I don't know, it's a hard industry. Like we talk about all the time. It's hard to advocate for dietitians ourselves, like just with the competition. And we expect a lot more from our governing body, because that's the person that we hold responsible for it.
And we've had some insight at times. We've spoken to, who was it that we met with that time, who used to be the president? Remember when
Julie Dundon.
Yeah, and she had amazing things to say about DA, so most of it anyway. And yeah, look, like I said, it's just really hard to know unless you're in it exactly what's happening. So we can all sit on the outside and go, no, it's shit, or it's not good, or we could do it better, and Tyson could do it better, apparently,
Well, she's telling me I should be the CEO.
There you go.
And I immediately wrote back to that going, no. I have no interest in being the CEO of DA, or any board for that matter. I've been on boards before. They're not a good time. Not a good time.
So pretty much what was on my Insta story the other day was around disordered eating, right? So as dietitians, when we go into placement, we're generally we anticipate that seeing clients with eating disorders is going to be really difficult and really hard. So I put a question out there just to see what sort of responses I would get. And for the most part, nobody likes trying to help people, or are scared, or at least timid to help people that have full-blown eating disorders. And so the question was to why, and one person responded back to me around the issue in universities, where as students they're not exposed to seeing people with eating disorders because it's too sensitive, and so often the university lecturers would not let them sit on, or on placement they'd have to sit outside, and all the above. And I suppose my gripe with that is, what makes someone clinically with an eating disorder any more sensitive than somebody else coming in who is trying to lose weight? I've had so many people for weight loss, you wouldn't even think looking at them that they've got an eating disorder and there's any issues or whatever, they come in all of a sudden start bursting out in tears, and they tell you about their history of trying to lose weight over X number of years. This person might be 70 or 60 or 50 or 40. I think that the same thing applies in pediatrics. So I think you're looking at population spectrums where they're really unwell, or you think they're really sick and that you're going to do some harm. I think that's part of the big problem. But like anything, as I said, with disordered eating and with kids, it's the same thing. It's the same sort of nutrition conversations you will have around mindfulness with diets, trying to improve their relationships with food. If we're talking about people with eating disorders with babies, it's just less small amounts of things, small changes. But with people with eating disorders, I think it's that next level where you think, they've got to run out the door, they're going to yell at you, there's all this emotional instability and all the above, and then we also think it tends to be only, young girls. So I guess my thoughts, my questions are to you is why are you scared? And that was one of the things, and a lot of it came around the sensitivity of the condition itself, not being exposed to it. And one other flag was potentially a bit of a concern for me is that maybe there's a lot of dietitians that actually do themselves have or previously had disordered eating.
Well, I'm pretty sure there's research on that, isn't it?
Yep. And that some of the lecturers have known this and then therefore said that it's not a good idea. But I think if they've recovered, I think it's actually a really good idea, and maybe part of the reason why they got into dietetics in the first place.
A lot of the time it is the reason why they got into dietetics.
Is to try and help people, obviously, along the same path.
But at the same time, some people get into it because they want to learn more about nutrition to then better their control of their weight or eating disorder tendencies, which is obviously damning. I remember when I was at Masters, this person wasn't studying dietetics, but I was at the time, and they were sitting next to me in like a computer lab, and I'm talking to their friend about every single kilojoule or whatever of their diet, like from start to finish, just telling their friend, oh no, I've got to have that because this and this. I'm like, holy crap, this chick definitely has disordered eating or an eating disorder. It was just because it's that obsession about food, and that's why some people get into dietetics, because they love food and they love all of that. And if you don't have it before, you might have it post, and that might, it's one of those chicken or the egg sometimes. But yeah, there is research on it. I can't remember what the statistics were, but there was a lot of dietitians that said they had disordered eating kind of tendencies pre or post dietetics. I think it's just part and parcel of knowing more information about what's going in your mouth. You can become obsessed about it.
And also the type of people that become dietitians tend to be those people that are more likely to suffer from mental health conditions, and also obviously mental health eating disorders tightly linked. So I think that's a big part of it too, not that just because all dietitians have an eating disorder.
Yeah.
So yeah, that, ambitious, highly strung type of situation. So yeah, look, ultimately.
What was the question?
It was, why don't dietitians like seeing people with eating disorders?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think people are also scared that they'll say the wrong thing, that they'll make it worse.
Yeah, that they'll say the wrong thing, make it worse, all the above. But ultimately, you're not going to make it any better if you don't actually give it a go. So a lot of people are happy to throw themselves into someone, a type 1 diabetic situation on insulin who they've never ever seen, but they don't want to see this person with an eating disorder. The other thing is you don't actually know what they're like until you get in there. So you've just got this facade up about what it's going to be like versus actually going and seeing them and saying, okay, right. The other is relatability. We all have the capacity to interview a client, get some history, talk to them, and even just get that baseline. And even if once you've done that and you identify after that session that you're completely out of your comfort zone, well, that might be time to move on and refer to somebody else. And I know it is sensitive because you want that continuity. But I think if you treat it really sensitively, or if you walk on eggshells in the room and you pretend like you've got no idea what to do or what to say, the first starting point with anyone that's got an eating disorder is just actually starting to get to know them. So ask them questions about how they're feeling, what's going on for them, why they're coming to see you. So all the baseline stuff that you would do with someone anyway when you're seeing them. But it's obviously going to be unpacking some of their food fears and their reasons for why they've come to see you. So if they've come with their mum or if they've come by themselves, I've seen people anywhere over, with parents and kids at around the age of 12 up to, adults that tell me throughout a consult they've had a previous history of an eating disorder, whether it be bulimia or anorexia or of some, non-specified version thereof. But I can guarantee that I've probably diagnosed plenty of people with disordered eating that don't present in the same way, that don't have that typical eating disorder look either. So what I'm saying is you don't have to have seen somebody to know what to do or to know how to at least go through a consult. And then if you obviously do feel out of scope, then feel free to hit up other people in your area, get to know some people that obviously do specialise in that, and then refer on. There's plenty of opportunity to learn through the Butterfly Foundation. They do have courses. You can obviously go and learn a little bit more, but it's still really hard. Like, it doesn't teach you how to approach a situation with a person. Like, that's all just going to be learnt stuff. Doesn't mean you do it in the right way. There's going to be a lot of moments where you're just sitting there being quiet, and I've had plenty of those. There's just a lot of self-reflection and a lot of conversation. So it can be really draining, but so can other conditions. So.
And that's literally the same as any condition that you can think of that you're scared of. You should be, as a dietitian, able to get through the first consult, regardless of what it is. Pick the most complex renal disease you can possibly do, you should be able to get through an initial. If it's some random thing you've never heard of, you still should be able to get through an initial. There's still going to be stuff that you can do with the information gathering, the consultation, the actual learning of the person, and then you can refer on, like Peter said, if you at the end of it you just go, yeah, I've got no idea.
And the biggest one is, how the hell do you think you get experience?
Yeah. All right.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel down there.
Do it.